All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the ARLnow podcast. I'm Lene. We've got Vernon and Dan here. And our special guests this week, we've got Simone and David. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Locals might recognize them from Bayou Bakery.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about Bayou Bakery. I was there once, and the Mardi Gras party was just actually really, really good.
that was the first thing Dan told us about when we were like, oh, yeah, we have them
That's
on as guests this week. He was like, the Mardi Gras party was lit.
It was, yeah. I want to talk about those cocktails. They were great, but later.
Yeah, good
Well,
time.
it is hurricane season, so you can talk about hurricanes. Those are a good drink.
Yeah, it's a little tease for what's coming up later.
All right. Well, we'll get right into it. Our first article today is about a TikTok famous toucan who got stuck behind a dishwasher.
I loved this story. This story was so
Yeah.
much fun to report on, especially like so much of the time I'm reporting on like, press, politics, what have you happening in Arlington. Now, this one is about a toucan that got stuck behind a dishwasher. His name is Chester. He's got like over 800,000 followers on TikTok. Basically, the story is his owner was like cleaning the bathroom or something, and she had the toilet lid open. He flies over the toilet and somehow falls in. So she runs over, she grabs the toucan, she's freaking out because she really, she's very invested in this toucan. She's a really good pet owner. Runs over to the sink, is like washing him off. And this toucan is like so freaked out by this whole experience. Apparently when toucans get freaked out, they like run and like to like find somewhere dark and small to hide in. And so he hops
Right.
down from the sink, he goes to the ground, and he scurries up into this like hole under the dishwasher basically, and gets into this like dark space behind the dishwasher, and he can't get out. And she can't get to him. She doesn't even know where he is. She like pulls out her phone and is like able to take a video of him inside. She hears some like scurrying noises in there. Anyway, so she calls her property management. They say this was like over the weekend. They're like, we can't get there until after the weekend. She's like, that's not going to work out. So she calls up the fire department. They show up in like just a couple minutes and pull the dishwasher out and rescue her pet toucan. So it was really quite the adventure.
Wait, how long was the toucan there?
I don't think it was that long.
It was the same day.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah,
it was
same day.
definitely the same day. Like the fire department, they got there like that once she called them. But
Yeah.
it was maybe there a couple hours, I think. Like not long.
I thought it was very funny where the firefighters were like, we spent longer hanging out with the toucan afterwards than it took us to get the toucan out of there.
I was
Pull
waiting
the
for the
dish-
Fruit Loop jokes,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I learned that like I think there's different kinds of toucans. Like this particular toucan was like
Tiny.
you could hold it in like one hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
The
small.
beaks are bigger than their bodies, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to tell you about another sensation, though, being from New Orleans. And have y'all
Yeah.
ever heard of scrim?
What's scrim?
No.
I haven't heard of
Scrim
that.
was a little mutt that was like a viral sensation. It was incredible. Escaped. It's a rescue dog, and it was from November 2024 until February of 2025. It was
Huh.
always on the run. Anytime someone caught the dog, it jumped out of a
See right there.
two-story window.
Whoa.
It went through and escaped under. I mean,
What?
never could catch the dog. It eluded captures. It was
Oh my
great.
gosh.
And you would see it. People would video. There goes Scrim walking down the street. I mean, and everyone that said, and they put up signs, don't chase Scrim. It was crazy.
It never went viral, but I remember years ago here in Arlington, we had I think it was an albino Burmese python that got out, and they were the animal control people here in Arlington were chasing it through the sewer system. It would pop up out of a storm drain somewhere. They get called off and would like slither into another one and disappear again. So
Wow.
yeah, they had to track
That's
it across
scary.
town.
Yeah, that sounds like my nightmare. That sounds terrible, especially an albino one. So it's got the bright red beady eyes, I assume.
I don't
Even
think that makes
scarier.
it more lethal. Like it's not.
No, but it
bright
makes
red
it
eyes are extra
creepier.
strangling powers.
No, it definitely
Paralyzed.
makes it creepier though.
Makes you paralyzed with fear.
I agree.
Yeah,
Are you
snakes
scared
are
of
not my
snakes?
thing to begin with.
Oh, I love
I'm-
snakes.
I'm scared.
I'm fairly certain because I used to catch them when I was little. Like my brothers and I would catch the snakes and put them
Wow.
in buckets. And I think I got bit one time and then was like, oh, no, I'm scared of these things now.
No.
I don't like them anymore.
Well, this toucan I hear actually can also cause some injuries.
Oh yeah.
I was our coworker Jared, I think, had a couple years back had interviewed with the woman who owns him, and when he spoke to her, she had like a injury on her nose, and she was like, "Oh, it was my pet toucan that that did it." So you can never be too safe, I guess.
I thought you were gonna say that he went to interview her and got attacked by the toucan.
He did not get attacked by the toucan, to my understanding.
I was trying to think of other like viral animals in Arlington, and back in the 70s, there was an incident here where there was a creature along 4 Mile Run called the Beast of Barcroft. You heard of that?
Yeah, and I
No.
may have heard of it from you though.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, for a while it was like a local cryptid. This like spotted wolf-looking creature that just like stalked the streets of Barcroft. National Zoo found it. Turned out it was like a civet. It's like
It's
a
a
little
girl.
animal. It's a spotted dog-looking creature. And I think they must have gotten it back. I think, but yeah, that was
So it was real.
yeah. For a while, that was our own little like.
But did it come from the zoo? Like, where did it originate?
I
Like,
think so. I'll have to. People in the comments are going to be angry about this, but I don't know offhand. We'll get you a Beast of Barcroft update for the next episode.
malnutrition, like hyena or something. I mean, like, what is?
Yeah,
what is-
exactly.
All
It's like it's kind of small. Like there were sketches of it at the time. It's native to tropical Asia and Africa, so I think they got it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just got loose from somebody's collection, but I know the National Zoo did eventually take it.
Did not hear about that one.
What was it mean?
I don't think it was mean. It was just an unusual sighting around that. It didn't hurt anybody. It's not like it's not a werewolf. Yeah,
Sounds like it. I mean,
yeah. I wish it been a werewolf. I love a werewolf story.
I will say one last thing about this article is, did you watch the video of
Mhm.
the toucan?
Mhm.
When she said it looks like a sleep paralysis demon, like when he is sopping wet,
Uh-huh.
that was so accurate. He's so cute when he's dry, but my God, that little picture of him like in the back of the
Yeah.
dishwasher in the dark, soaking wet.
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
he looks
oh.
frightening. I was telling my wife about this one, and she's like just seeing the photos that I include in the story, and she's like, I don't know what she's talking about, saying he looks like a sleep paralysis demon. I'm like, you got to watch the video, and then she pulls up the video, and she's like, oh, he does.
Because he's so cute when he's dry, but oh my
Right.
God.
Right.
I was on a road trip this weekend, and one of the guy driving, shout out Alex, is a Arlington firefighter, and so he was sending me the footage like as it was coming in on the channel there, and I was like,
Mm.
"This
Oh
is
my
so fun."
gosh.
That's
That's
awesome.
so funny. All right. Well, moving on. Our next article is about a new business coming. Entangled Yarn Shop and Makerspace opening in Falls Church.
So I was up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire this weekend, and one of the things I was noticing is like a lot of these cool local towns or these small towns have local businesses that are not just no offense to everybody here, like restaurants and stuff like that. I think we need a lot of retail outlets that have something interesting to provide, and I think a local yarn shop is definitely one of those. This is Entangled. They not only sell supplies for crocheting and activities like that, but they also have classes. They have classes for knitting and crocheting, bringing everybody together, kind of de-stressing together as like a big group. I think it's fun. I don't know. I think it'll be kind of a hit, especially in the Falls Church market. This is a big crochet town.
Yeah. I feel like knitting and crocheting they got super popular with, I think, like younger adults at the beginning of COVID. And it
Yeah.
seems to have like stuck around too, which is cool. A lot of the people I know that picked up crocheting at the beginning, like they still regularly crochet. So it's,
Yeah.
I like it. I think that's great.
Do any of you guys crochet?
I don't. No, my mom does. She
Mhm.
knits and crochets and does all that. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about the pandemic. You saw an uptick in the trend, and obviously some of that is stuck around. So I guess it's no longer a trend. I don't know how long it's got to go before it's no longer considered a trend. But I would say that I know from the sort of the stereotypes, if you will, of this market, a lot of young women that picked it up, and they actually are members of local quilting groups, and the age gap can be 25 years, it could be 45 years. Like it's, to me, that's an activity that doesn't have an age restriction. So like golf, we often talk about golf as being a sort of a sport to the end for life. Tennis, not high impact sports, but keep the blood flowing and keep you, engaged. And I think that this could be next thing you know, we could see like a jazzercising kind of exercising, crocheting class with hot yoga. And it could be this whole mash of all these trendy things coming together as one.
Yeah. That's when it comes to Clarendon.
Yeah. Only Arlington you probably pull that off, but yeah.
Yeah, we have in Alexandria. There's a shop there called Fiberspace that we've covered for years, and they're a great like local institution. It's one of those things where you don't just. I think a lot of shops like this are not just a place where people come in, buy one item and walk out. You get these like people who come back. Exactly, It's a community. People come back. People talk to each other. People go to classes together. Exactly. I think that's great.
I have a similar thing in my life. It's called Fran's Cake Supply, and it's in Fairfax. And so, yes, at the end of the day, I can give Bezos more of my money and I can do whatever. But when you go there and you hear, guys, gals, mainly women, but, there's other people in there, but they'll come and they'll buy something, but then they pick the brain of the cashier about like, hey, and showing them pictures. I was doing this over the weekend and, what do I need to do this? This color's bleeding, and that's it. Yeah. It's a resource for that industry to be able to converse. And there's even classes that they do on the weekend. So that's kind of one of those things that you hope doesn't go away. But you also wonder how they're doing, how they're able to support. But I guess, there's people that are still out there baking and need supplies. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's great for also like just forming a nice sense of community, especially if you're someone that's like new to the area. That would be such a good way. Yeah. Or even if you have lived here for a long time and you just want to meet new people. Yeah. It's such a great way to do that.
I live right on the line between Arlington and Falls Church. You can see it out there. But there's a local coffee shop around here that has like a writing group. And that was the same way where like it's really nice to be able to get out and meet people who are in your area who are doing the kind of things that you're passionate about. And yeah.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of like people are big into run clubs now too. And it's, different activities, same general premise of, you're getting together with a group of people who enjoy the same thing.
That's exactly. I like it. A certain type of person for certain things.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, our last article for the day is a large auction going on at Ames Broadcast Studio.
Were y'all there in line right away?
Yeah, so this story, well, we've been covering this for a while. Arlington Independent Media, a former public broadcast station that has just been on quite hard times for a couple years at this point. And they're basically reaching the end of the line. I mean, as you can see, the county has ordered an auction of their entire broadcast studio. What is cool about this one is that it's really some like really rare equipment that you might not be able to find basically anywhere else. Things like camcorders, like professional cameras, like just all of this extremely like high quality professional equipment that is now hitting the market, which I was enjoying, not to make light of the situation with AIM, which has been causing a lot of stress to people. I was enjoying for this story, like actually just looking through hundreds of pieces of inventory that are just up for sale now, and accepting bids.
So it's being auctioned. I have to look at that article more. It's being auctioned where? Like on what platform?
It's online. There's a link in the story. I don't recall the specific name of it, but yeah, the county has some kind of arrangement with some online auction house. Yeah. So you place the bids online and then you set up a time if you want, I don't know, sometime later this month when you can come and actually visit and check out the things in person if you want to.
Okay.
As somebody who does not do a lot of auctioning, I thought it was really interesting to see the county's tips there where they're like, don't feel like the prices are going to be really, really low when you first see it. A lot of that bidding comes in very late in the game. So I was like, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because it's like if you're placing your bids now, you might actually just get yourself into a bidding war that you don't want. That's at least like my thought. Like I would want to place the bid later on so that there's less time for people to
Yeah.
Out, but...
It's like the cake place or the cake festival that we were covering a few weeks back, where they're like, oh yeah, if you're one of the first 20 people, you get to sign up and pay a registration fee. Everybody after that doesn't. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Don't be too eager.
Yeah, an early bird
the event
registration
started like 3 hours late because of that. Everybody was holding out.
Everyone's waiting for the
Yeah, I'm not going to be the first one.
Right.
That's so weird.
That's my strategy for this auction. That's how I'm going to get myself a camcorder for $10.
We're just going to come in and our whole office is going to be turned into the AIM offices now. Well, I'm really excited to talk to David and Simone this week. I thought the very emotional, very moving newsletter about the Hurricane Katrina and the Po' Boy campaign, or the Po' Boy Power, it was called. And I thought that was great. Could you tell, for those who haven't been following the newsletter, first of all, where can they find it? And also, can you tell us a little bit about it?
If you join the Bayou Bakery, you'll receive that newsletter. If you join the...
Go to the website and then just put your email address into the bottom and you'll get the newsletter.
And then it just tells you about current events that are happening.
Now, you were born and raised in New Orleans. Yeah. And when did you come to DC?
Simone, you want to go first?
Yes, I came in 1998. And so it was from a chef that I work with in New Orleans. I was working at a hotel for 6 years in New Orleans called the Windsor Court Hotel. Yeah. And the chef was there. Funny enough, I only worked with him for 3 months because I was the PR director for that hotel. And then I moved to New York for 4.5 years, and he stayed there. And then he was moving to DC to open a restaurant called DC Coast. And the group was called Passion Food Hospitality. And he called me and said, "You're in New York. I'd like you to help me do the opening of our restaurant." And so I started coming back to DC, and I fell in love with DC from New York. And I'm like, I don't want to live in New York anymore. I want to live here. And so then David was the pastry chef there.
How about you, David? What was your journey from New Orleans to DC?
So a similar one, believe it or not, just different time frames. So I actually my first job out of culinary school was at the Windsor Court Hotel. But when I got there, Simone was already living in New York, and I didn't know her from Adam. I didn't know her in the city. We grew up in different parts of the city, but obviously we still shared the same affection and love for the city that we came from. But we met on the job, on the construction side of DC Coast at 14th and K in 1998. I moved here February 15th of 98, and we opened and launched the restaurant successfully in June of 98. And then I was with that group for just under 10 years. So to kind of get us back on track, the restaurant within that organization that we opened, that was a Louisiana restaurant. Essentially, we opened up DC Coast in this order, and then 10 Penn, then Saba, which was at 14th and G. 10 Penn was at 10th in Pennsylvania. And then the fourth restaurant that we opened with that group was called Acadiana, which was a Louisiana sort of inspired fish house. So heavy seafood and kind of, highlighting the famous dishes of New Orleans, but then the outskirts of New Orleans as well, which it doesn't get a lot of play, right? So Simone continued to do the PR for this organization. We were already married. I skipped over that part and already had kids at this point. Fast forward to 2005, finalizing the construction of Acadiana. And it was lining up where the owners were starting to strategize the launch of the opening day. Based on construction and lead times and all that. Fast forward, Katrina hit 12 days prior to us launching a Louisiana restaurant in the nation's capital. So Simone talked to one of the owners. There was 3 owners at the time, and tried to convince them to make a point of opening for a fundraiser, our very first service, to show the state of Louisiana, which literally you're creating an entire concept around, is in trouble, and we need to pay attention to that. If we launched with a regular lunch service or a regular dinner service 12 days after the storm, and you want me to promote that you're a Louisiana restaurant, but we don't mention anything about what's going on, it's just ridiculous. And I think it'll be, the nail in the coffin. And so
I almost got fired for it.
Yeah, I mean, they went out. It was, one owner was adamant about not doing it. The other one understood her position, and the other one was kind of in between or whatever.
I said, "You're not doing it. I'm not helping you.
Yeah,
I'm not helping you open this restaurant unless
that would have been such a bad look.
Well, it was a combination of
just,
inhumanity, and then, but also just our personal, like that's where we're from. People know we're from there, and now we're part of a restaurant group that's not from there. but is capitalizing on the culture, which the
Yeah.
culture is completely underwater. So, that's anyway. So yeah, that was kind of it. It was like, it was a no brainer for most of us. And then once they were convinced otherwise, we kind of followed that track. And so Simone launched a organization called Pool Boy Power,
Yeah.
and made T-shirts and the whole 9 yards, and basically just put it out there that this is where we're going to be. This is what we're doing.
But there's a little point to it, is that I want to say about how the community was. We had to reach out to chefs. We said,
Mhm.
to make this successful, we need the community of chefs to be able to.
I've got that list
support
in my head, so I'll
Yeah.
rattle them off.
Is
But-
this chefs in DC or chefs
in
in
DC.
New Orleans?
In
Okay,
DC.
yeah.
And then, so we had about 25 different chefs from all over in all of Virginia and DC.
Yeah.
That said, we're in. And so I said, it's really simple, because Poor Boy Power, that's a signature sandwich of New Orleans. Everybody knows that. And then I used this tagline. First, Poor Boys are supposed to, the history of it is that it fed the young underage workers on the street
Yeah.
back in the day, back in the 1930s and
It's
20s,
accessible.
like that.
Yeah.
So their saying was, can you give a poor boy a sandwich? And so that's how that came about. And then it says, you want your poor boys dressed. So it was like, how are we going to dress New Orleans again? How are we going to bring it back? So that was the whole philosophy from the poor boy. So it was easy to do. People knew it. We flew up. I was working at the time with a very well-known chef, John Besh. He came up. Actually, it was very hard planes. This is 12 days after Katrina.
Yeah,
So
where he lost all of his restaurants and his staff of over 100 are displaced.
Right. So Viking, I will say Viking, the stoves, that company figured out how to fly him up. And he got there. And he was one of the ones he wanted to show, because he was a Marine. And so he wanted to show.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
That's right.
Mhm.
To show his conviction and perseverance and everything, resilience about for that city. So that's why he came, and he started with all the 25 guys, and we got it out there. We had so many groups that come. Lines were around the block.
We had Todd Gray, Francesco Enrique, Berto Donna. We had Mark Furstenberg from Bread First, with donating all the baguettes. We had Ann Cashin and blah, blah, blah. We were frying up shrimp. It was.
Carla Hall was there, and Carla Hall was not known who she was.
Well, she was known locally. She was part of our local community.
Locally, she was a late dom, but
it was a who's who of the DC culinary scene.
it was
we went back
amazing.
to the photographs recently, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot that this person was there. Yeah.
We had delegates from Louisiana that were there. We
Mitch
had
Landrew, Mary Landrew, Mary and her husband Frank.
Lindy Boggs was there,
and Boggs, John Bro. We had a lot of Vitter.
It was, and the people were down the block. They were like, "We'll pay $50. We'll pay $100."
Someone was writing a check. They wrote a check for $5,000 for a shrimp po' boy.
It was a relief effort, right? You said this is one of the first that was going on. Yeah.
And David, I would like to say, and David's parents had 10 feet of water in their house, and they came up. They drove up.
They came up with the clothes on their back because
Yeah.
they left the house and everything in it. And when they moved temporarily to Houston to get away from the storm, and then they flew to us, they had only the clothes that the local church in Houston gave them access to. And, my dad, professional veterinarian, 35 years, private practice, he wasn't a fashionista, but he definitely didn't go outside wearing a T-shirt and shorts or something that didn't fit him. And, it was a very humbling experience to see your parents in clothes that you don't recognize. And as weird as that sounds, it's like you kind of know what your parents' style is, over the years. And then you see them kind of not in their home, not in their own city, and then wearing different clothes. It was just very, very strange.
I think about that all the time. Anytime it's a disaster, I can't imagine what it's like to have to, pull your whole life back together after losing everything in a house like that. So, yeah. Oh, and for you guys up in this region, I thought part of an interesting part of this newsletter was the very emotional reaction that you have to this, is being at a certain degree before you start this fundraiser kind of helpless. What was that like, kind of looking at this, all of the footage coming in from New Orleans?
I think that was something for me. It was one of the hardest parts, is I was still doing 70 plus hours a week, working, and I couldn't physically leave. Even when my parents were strategizing on going back to the city, but even, right after the levees broke to when my parents went back, we're talking about many months, and watching all the footage. part of me was angry about a lot of the coverage because, a lot of
Yeah.
people were just already writing the city off while the city was underwater. And I'm just like, who says that? Who
Yeah.
says that in these moments? Like, who are you? Are you trying to get more likes or what? I mean, not
Yeah.
even likes because this is before Instagram, but like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Like, what, how does that comment serve anyone?
Yeah.
So I was upset with the fact that they were like, oh, the city's never going to be the same. And, I don't know if the city's going to survive, get through this. And it's just like, people in New Orleans take that as a direct challenge. They're
Yeah.
like, that's not how we do things here. And now I will say that, Katrina definitely brought a new population to the city,
Yeah.
which kind of shaped it in a little different sense. But I definitely don't think it has deterred or diminished any of the rich culture that we have down there. I think it's added to it, and it's a new story to tell about New Orleans post Katrina. So,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more open-minded to those types of things than other New Orleanians are, probably because
Yeah.
I don't still pay taxes in the state
Yeah.
and live there. But, I think it's a tricky thing. A lot of people didn't return, and then a
Yeah.
lot of people didn't have any options and go anywhere. So it was hard.
But at one point, I want to say is that people thought, okay, the hurricane, some people couldn't escape. My family had to go to the Hilton Hotel and stay there because they didn't get out in time. And everyone felt when they woke up the next morning, the sun was out. Okay,
Birds were chirping.
Yeah.
we're all okay. The
People were
people
raking their front yards, like cleaning up.
and then we get the call. The water's coming in. We don't know where it's coming from because cell phones were down. I mean, cell service, all of that was
Yeah.
down. No one could communicate except by landline. I could only communicate. My brother had a plug-in phone and so he could call me, but he said, we're listening to WWL radio and they're saying the water is coming in and they're trying to figure out where it's coming from. And it's just gushing into the city. But it's not gushing into the French Quarter. Just so you know, the French Quarter is the highest point in New Orleans.
Sure.
One, one of the highest
They
points.
built it that way,
Yeah.
even though it's next to the river, but it's almost like a bowl. So wherever was coming into the bowl part, all the water was rushing in. We didn't know the levees broke for a while, but all of a sudden my brother was like, I'm going to go get them. I don't know where it is. I'm never going to be able to get them if I don't get them now. I'm in an SUV. And he went and picked them up and brought them to the house. And then they gathered their stuff and were driving away to get out of there. But that was the scary part for people that lived in the 7th Ward, the 9th Ward, all of those mid-city where your family, I mean, your parents had their house, which had 10 feet. It was the scariest part about just knowing it's rising and rising. And when is this going to stop?
I'm sure you guys go back from time to time, right? To New Orleans?
I go all the time.
Yeah. So looking back on it 20 years now after this happened, do you see any kind of lingering impacts from Katrina on the city? Any ways that it changed the city that have really stuck around?
Public eye or the tourists or people like that don't see that. It's in outer lining areas that have not really come back. The people have not come back. And
the area that I grew up in, which is Orleans Parish, but New Orleans East, as we refer to it, the East, that was as heavy hit as, Chalmette and Lakeview area in Mid-City. So that was my childhood home where my parents were living. They had been there for about 16, 17 years, but it wasn't necessarily my childhood home. But no matter where they would have been, that house or the new one, they would have been in the same. So I drive out to New Orleans East, whenever I'm back in town, and there's still blue tarps on the roofs, and it's been 20 years. And you're just like, what's wrong with that picture? Is it an insurance's issue? Is it not coverage? Is it not the resources? The people leave and get, abandoned the area. Like half the people don't even live in that entire neighborhood anymore. Yeah. I mean, you would never see that. Like Simone said, as a tourist coming into the city, they did a really good job of cleaning everything up, that people would typically see or need to see as they visited our city. But, I don't know. I definitely think you can walk through the French Quarter and it feels slightly different to a local. You wouldn't pick that up necessarily. I mean, again, not to, sort of go edgy, but like, growing up in that amazing city, like we didn't have Caucasian musicians on the street. Like it just wasn't part of our culture. And now there's, people from Seattle and Oregon and the West Coast that are wearing kilts and, living on the streets of the French Quarter playing music. It's not that they don't deserve to be there. It's just that they're not from there. And that's not something I grew up seeing. So it was definitely something visually different post Katrina. A lot of Texas license plates, obviously, in the state, for years after Katrina, because, we needed resources, people to help us build the city back up. So a lot of that was coming from our neighboring West, because obviously what we didn't talk about today was the fact that New Orleans made it out all right, in the sense that, not all right, but like, I mean, the whole, coast, southern coast, the Gulf Coast just got crushed. I mean, from Mississippi, Alabama, that whole region just flattened. I mean, decimated, just flattened.
The fishing industry, though, got really decimated.
Oh yeah.
Empire, Louisiana, all of those, the oyster beds, everything.
We also, yeah, I know we talk about like the damage done to the Gulf Coast. We've seen that obviously recently with some of the natural disasters out in like Houston and stuff like that, or out in Texas. There was the flooding that they had at the camp over there. How has this kind of affected when you see some of those disasters happening? How is experiencing the impact of Katrina on your families, on your friends? How does that change some of the way you look at these disaster stories that come out?
I think we're more empathetic and have sympathy. For me, I understand what they're going through, and you just hope that the country, because also they didn't respond very quickly to what was happening in New Orleans. We was a feud between, should the National Guard come in, and they really needed that. We really needed them to help get those people. So many people died because they
We
didn't.
still don't have a record of bodies and people. I mean, people just disappeared. They didn't just die; they disappeared. There's a ton of mysteries. I mean, we can go deep into that. The city did not handle it well. You can argue multiple points in both sides, but the reality is we turned our back on a lot of our people, and that's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate because it's also history repeating itself, and that's what sucks about it, because you just would like to think that we can get not past something, but grow through our experiences and the way we treat people, and just it's the functionality of any major city. Is it functioning for the people, or is it biased to one, or whatever? And listen, I mean, there's no secret. New Orleans has had its own racial divides for centuries. I mean, it's I hate to say it's part of our culture, but there's places in the city where certain people live and certain people socialize and do things. And, that's what cities are for. They not to have everybody in one section. I mean, you have different neighborhoods because there's different levels of affordability. There's different levels of whatever, but everyone should still have access to all resources, regardless of what part of the city they're in or what their economic status is. And that's where we failed horribly.
So you always hope for the other situations that does not occur, that we've learned from.
We had mechanical failures. We had plumbing. Listen, growing up in New Orleans, this is the big issue, is we've lived our lives around this type of warning for my whole childhood. I wasn't born during Betsy. Emil and Betsy were our big ones, 1965. To say that we didn't learn anything, I can't. But the reality is, as much as you get in the Army Corps of Engineers, from the design standpoint, we employed like Sweden. We had everybody come in from Sweden because they have these amazing water damming systems and ways that they kind of modernize their issues around protecting their people and the rate of water and everything else. And I know we put millions and millions and millions of dollars, but I don't, if something was like this to happen tomorrow, I don't know how different it would be. And that's the scary part, because there's no way to test it in real time.
Yeah. So when you have people come to Bayou Bakery, I imagine there's probably a fair amount of people who are from Louisiana that come in and get a little taste of home. Is this one of those things that gets kind of brought up when you get talking to people? Is were you there during that? Do you have family there? Because I know around DC, like we have that with. If you talk to any firefighter or older like police officer around, you hear that about 9/11, right? Is it
sure?
Like, what were you doing?
Where were you on 9/11? Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
I think it doesn't. It's not the first thing someone spits out when they walk in for a cup of gumbo 20 years later. But I mean, if I'm there in those moments and there's a conversation. I mean, that's kind of where we go is, well, the first thing they say is I'm from New Orleans, or if they say they're from Louisiana, that means they're not from New Orleans. So when they walk into the restaurant and say, oh, I'm from Louisiana, I kind of hear them talking to like my team. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so if you're from New Orleans, you say you're from New Orleans. And if you say you're from New Orleans, but you're from outside of New Orleans, but like 20 miles, 30 miles, we cut you some slack. But if you're from like Monroe or somewhere like north, we call you a Yankee, and you're not really from New Orleans. But anyway, we lived our whole life like that. Is like watching the news and getting the warnings. Oh, it looks like it's lining up to the river again. Okay, well, this eye is here and projected to do this.
Yeah.
And we always just kind of threw a party and watched it go by. And, this time it didn't go by, or it did go by. The storm, we survived. It was the aftermath.
No one was throwing a party. Usually,
This time, it is what it is. We, the whole Fats Domino story of finding him in his attic, there's a million of those types of stories, these treasures, these icons that we have that represent our city, the ambassadors to our city that, whether it's through food or music, the Paul Perdones, the, Fats Dominoes, the Professor Longhairs, that's, I don't know, man. I will say this as a New Orleanian, not having survived the storm, not having lived there during Katrina, I still had all the same levels of excitement when things started to come back, because we'd see that. So like a big one for us obviously were our Saints, because spent the first season kind of borrowing stadiums because we didn't have a home, because we all know what happened to the Superdome, and that's a whole nother thing. And so we needed that. I don't even care if you were a diehard Saints fan to begin with. Like, you became a Saints fan.
But so many Saints fan and people would come in after Katrina, come into Bayou Bakery. I mean, people were wearing their jerseys, even if a game wasn't going on. I mean, people were like wanting to show their loyalty for that.
To the state, to everything. Yeah. So, I think, Hubig's Pies was another big one. Hubig's Pies has been in our history for over 70 years, and it's a fried hand pie that everybody knows and loves, and it's savory.
Sweet.
No. The name
Hubig's the lemon.
No, the guy that's on the thing, the chef. So his name is Savory Sam or Sam Savory. It's Savory something. Anyway. You failed that test, Miss New Orleanian.
I did.
But anyway, so when the production started happening again, and we started seeing these iconic wax paper like hand pies with the orange and yellow writing, it was like, okay, our Saints are playing again, our pies are back. Like, what's our first Mardi Gras looking like? That's how we establish ourselves. That is our identity. So when we don't have that, we don't know what's going on, and we need to know, when is this happening again? Because we don't have seasons in New Orleans. It's our crawfish season is our season. Our Mardi Gras time is our season. Football season is our season. Like, we don't have these falls and these summers. Like, that doesn't exist. So, when these things started showing back up in our lives, it was like, okay, things are going to be okay.
Nice. I just realized my computer is about to die. So if I drop out for anybody watching this, you know what happened. So,
well, I just want to say the levees may have broken, but it doesn't break a New Orleanian, and
that's right.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on and talking about this.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we'll have you come back sometime and talk about Bayou Bakery and everything going on there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, you gotta just come to Bayou Bakery and have beignets and some hurricane and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. Saints. There we go.
Who dat?
Yeah,
all right.
That's right. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great
everyone.
rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you
guys so much.
Bye.